as we can.
For
All
sure.
right.
I see a couple already here.
Oh, this is wonderful. Hello, everyone. It's so great to see you. Oh, and I know some faces too. Know some
Love
names.
it. We've got Wisconsin and Cape Town, Quebec. Welcome, welcome. Rhode Island, Brooklyn, and New York.
And by you, North Carolina too.
Yes. Yes, I'm coming from North Carolina.
Alabama, Seattle. Wow, New Brunswick. This is so much fun. It's so great to see you all. Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us live, which makes it so much more fun. We're going to encourage you to use the chat and talk with us and ask questions. Thank you for letting us know where. Oh, we've got a South Carolina too. Carolina's in the house. Yeah, let us know if you haven't already. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Oh, it's so nice to see everyone. It's really great. Oh, someone from Spain, North Georgia, Peninsula, Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Wow, Cambridge, Utah. Oh, it's so good to see everyone. All right. So I'm Gina and I'm in Switzerland. And this is Trisha.
I'm Trisha and I'm in North Carolina. So it's great that with this technology, we can have these conversations from anywhere in the world, which is so fun.
Yeah.
So Gina, do you want to, we thought we would start by telling a little about ourselves. So Gina, why don't you kick it off? And,
all right. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gina Renee and I run Gina Renee Designs, which started off as an indie pattern company, but I've kind of switched gears and gone into teaching in the past couple years. And I'm really, really enjoying that part. I've been in the garment industry for about 20 years now, and I just left it in January to do this full time. Which was a really hard decision to make because I also really loved working in the industry and working for lots of different manufacturers, making different types of clothing. And I started my journey off in New York City, going to the Fashion Institute of Technology, and went in from high fashion to sportswear and action sports clothing. And so totally different ends of the spectrum. And yeah, so that's a little bit about my journey. I've been in Switzerland the last 8 years, and I was leading a pattern making team and seamless development team here. And now I'm Gina Renee, full time. And what about you, Trisha?
Hi, I'm Trisha, and I just want to say hello to a couple of you who've joined us. We've got Turkey and Slovenia house. That's awesome. And I'd also love to encourage you if you are wanting to share like what your sewing journey is and pattern making journey, and like what kind of intrigued you to join us for our pattern conversation. I like to consider myself your pattern nerd friend is how I always sign my emails because I just love everything about pattern making. So I'm the owner of Creative Costume Academy. I come from a background in theater and live performance. So that has been my career for the last 20 years. And I've had for the last 10 years of that, I've also had my own business where I build costumes. I've had clients like Blue Man Group, Cirque du Soleil, Broadway, Disney. So big time clients where a lot is expected of me. And that's kind of where I've honed my methods as far as making patterns and making clothes. And that's where I fell in love with pattern making back when I was in school. And I just really loved it. I loved how things that I was trying before I came across it. And there are rules and things that just clicked and made sense. So I just fell in love with it. And now I'm just eager to learn all there is about pattern making. And about 2 years ago is when I moved my classes that I used to teach in person online. And so I have Creative Costume Academy, the Pattern Place, where we have a whole pattern community dedicated to learning about pattern making, sharing about pattern making. And we also I have a joint membership with Mimi G Style, if you guys know who she is, where called Pattern Making Academy, where I also teach pattern making there as well. So all about patterns here with us.
Yeah, you stay so busy. Every time I talk to you, you have so many things going on. And
yeah, during the pandemic when live entertainment kind of halted, that I was able to dive a lot more, and that's when I grew the community and grew the memberships. And now with live entertainment coming back, it's made my life a little bit more intense, but I love it. And I've really learned through this whole journey that I just love teaching people about pattern making and seeing that change with them, that growth with them, the confidence build. And it's just really touching to me. So we're very thankful. I know Gina feels the same.
Absolutely.
We're just very thankful for you guys to be here. We love sharing about, all this stuff, and that you guys are here and want to be part of the conversation too is really cool to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's the community is what makes it special. And, that's the really special thing about having social media now. And we can share this really specific thing, whether it's sewing or pattern making, anything that we have other people that we can connect with. And I find that amazing, because when I was growing up, I didn't know anyone who sewed unless it was my friends' moms. And then I did finally meet a friend who sewed, but nobody did it. And it just seemed so hard to connect with people. So it's so wonderful to see so many people all over the world joining us. And hi, Mom, I see you on there. And my husband.
Well, Cheryl took your Moulage course and says it's the best she's ever taken. She's come far away and enjoying working on her customized patterns. So we're going to be talking about moulages here very soon. That's what we're here to talk about, but that's Absolutely. Great. And Sandra also went to FIT.
Oh, it's great. It's great to see you, Cheryl, too. Hi. Yeah. Oh, and it's so nice. Some people have the book. That's the fitting book. Oh, it's on this side. Yeah, so that's the book I wrote and published last year. So super exciting.
Awesome. You all should have it. I have one too. It's right here. Easy to get.
Yeah.
Do it all the time.
Love that.
Marlene wants to learn more about patterns and adjusting patterns, and that's what we're all about helping you with, so that you are in the right place. Diane in Colorado, welcome. And Desiree, she is a super fan.
Oh, I love that. Trisha, super fan. Oh, yeah, lots of people have the book. Oh, that's wonderful. That's really great.
Oh, custom bra maker, Christine. That sounds really cool.
What was that? I didn't hear it.
A custom bra maker.
Oh.
Christine.
Oh, nice. Custom bra maker. Oh, that's really cool. Fun.
Yeah, a lot of people have the book, as they should.
Oh, read it on the beach. That's so fun. So let's go ahead and get started on our main topic. And I think, Trisha, you saw this on social media, right? This was kind of a big topic that people were discussing.
Yeah, people were talking about what is the difference between a moulage and a sloper and a block and, working pattern. So, and posting what they thought it was. And then I posted what I thought it was. And then I reached out to Gina and I said, you know what, maybe we should have a conversation and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share what we think it is.
And whatever we say, it's not the golden rule. I think everyone should know that, because there are so many countries involved, and that's the one thing I've learned about living in another country, that the terminology varies so much, and also just from brand to brand, that the terminology really changes from every company.
Yeah. So we're not here to tell you that this our opinions or the way we see it is the end all be all thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what we've referred to it in our work and in our experience. And we're happy to answer questions and would love to hear if you have a different opinion, or maybe it's different where you live. We have some people
Mm-hmm.
here from all over, so it would be definitely interesting to hear what you think as well.
Absolutely. So we'll go into the very first topic, which is the difference between a moulage and a sloper. So, Trisha, what's your take on this?
I always have thought, that a moulage is like a second skin. When you build a moulage, you make it fit to your body, like a bodycon, not much room for movement. Very, very, very fitted to like form your body.
Okay, that's pretty much what I relate it to as well. And I have kind of this image here that I'll show you. This is an image of a moulage pattern over on the left side, and it's based on your body measurements. And then let's go into another picture. This is my moulage that is fitted on myself. So that's super, super tight, really, really form fitted. And the word moulage is actually a French word, and it means a mold. So it's basically exactly a replicate of the body, a body double. Let's say it like that. And so
and you actually used yours to make a dress form of yourself, didn't you?
absolutely. So let's see, we have a picture of that. My dress form that I made is over on the right picture. And then the one on the left, the one that I'm with my arm around, is just a regular dress form that I've put my moulage on, and then I padded it up underneath to fit into my moulage. So there are kind of different options with that as far as a body double goes, and using that as a dress form and using that for fitting primarily. Yeah. All right.
Do you want to talk about the different uses or why you would want a moulage? What
Mm-hmm.
you could, I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit, what you could do with it, but kind of what's the value?
What's the value? Yeah, that's a great question. So the main reason why you would want a moulage is to have a solid foundation to start from. And if you're really interested in pattern making and you're interested in pattern drafting, it's a really great option to start from a moulage and then add the garment ease or the wearing ease to create a sloper later on. And so the reason why you would have a moulage is to create bras or corsets or strapless dresses, or even really tightly fitted garments, things like that, you would use the moulage for. And then after you fit that and get it all dialed in, then you're adding the garment wearing ease to it to create a sloper.
And I am referring these questions more to Gina because she has that picture she showed of the GRD method, a class about the moulage.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a moulage course, making a moulage with the GRD method. And the method that I've developed over the years, it's taken me really a long time to dial it in because it is different from any other method, meaning all of the darts, if we look back at that picture here, we can see that pattern image has a lot of darts. We have a side dart, we have an armhole dart, a shoulder dart, a front dart in the front at the center front, and then we have a waist shaping line. So we have a lot of different darts and lines in order to really mold the body. And I've created a method that basically based on your body measurements, it creates the dart depths according to those body measurements. And it also takes your true shoulder slope. And other moulage methods there are many different methods out there. As far as I know, they take standards for those dart depths and for the shoulder slopes. And for me, that's the biggest difference between my method and other methods. Yeah.
So there are a couple questions here. Is Desiree saying, when do you use one versus the other? And I know you kind of explained with the bras and the corsets. So I think you kind of answered that, if there was anything you had to add.
So, well, actually, it's a good question to talk about maybe the sloper now, because what is a sloper, Tricia?
Sure, we could talk about a sloper. So I consider a sloper to have ease included, wearing ease, and maybe we could talk a little bit about wearing ease versus design ease or garment ease. So it's not skin tight. It's meant to fit comfortably. And the way I always describe a sloper, I mean, the sloper, the image that you have and the images that I usually refer to are, you know, the basic bodice. It's a basic pattern. It's not usually with a lot of, you know, no collar and like lots of different design elements. But it would fit your body comfortably if you are having a garment that had minimal ease, not something over baggy or you know, how you like to wear your clothes generally. So you might like a little bit of ease in your bust and a little bit of ease in your waist. And then if you were going to make a garment later using that sloper, you would add in more ease for the design. But I also think that a sloper can be any pattern. So if you're someone who likes to make a lot of button-down shirts, you can have a button-down shirt pattern that is a sloper. And typically when I refer to a sloper, I don't have any seam allowance on it, because the point of a sloper is to use it as a template to start to create new designs. It's something that has been fit to the body, to either yourself or the client that you're making things for, and has that average ease that you like or your designs that you like. And then you can use that as a template to start and kind of do flat pattern manipulating to create different designs. And we'll get into what that is in a minute. But a sloper generally is referred to as a basic bodice and a basic skirt for women, but you could also have a sleeve sloper, you can have a pant sloper, and really it can be any pattern that is a basic pattern without all the frills, bells, and whistles that has been fit to your body to use to create other designs.
Absolutely. So let's look at that picture again of what the pattern looks like of a sloper, a typical sloper. And this comes to terminology too. So this image is actually taken from my free mini course series that's coming up in September. So there is a link in the YouTube description to sign up for that if you haven't done it. But the sloper is the image over on the right side, and this is just a basic 2-dart sloper. You can also have a single dart sloper as well, and those are the basic ones, single and 2-dart slopers. And we also can refer to a sloper as a block, a base pattern, a basic pattern, or also heard the term working pattern or template, things like that. You know, generally it's your base, it's your foundation for what you make a style pattern with, a design that you choose to create.
Before we go too much further, there are a couple of questions, Gina, that we should probably, going back to your moulage. In the dress form that you just finished, did you start over with a smaller dress form?
So no, I actually took my exact same moulage, but I did have to make more pattern pieces. So I had to make the little arms on the side and the neck piece and an inside skeleton for it. And actually, let's see if I can go to full screen. We can see the moulage Dress form is right here. That's my girl.
So nice. So wonderful to have that.
But no, I used my direct pattern, and I did have to double check that the measurements were accurate still. And
as you're filling it.
Yeah, as I'm filling it, and before I really actually, before I actually did cut it out and everything, I measured the pattern and made sure it was close to the body measurements again.
And LaQuim is asking me, how do you see design elements on a flat pattern? So design elements that I'm talking about are, you know, if you're going to do color blocking seams or pockets, you know, pocket details, things like that. Maybe collars and cuffs, but if you want to make shirts that always have some form of collar, or then you would have maybe just your basic collar, not one. Maybe you make some with like really long points, or get a change up your variations in that way. You know, a sleeve sloper generally would be just a basic sleeve, but maybe you would take that basic sleeve and turn it into a puff sleeve or a bell sleeve or something like that. But you know what your armhole is supposed to, it's been fit into a standard armhole. So adding different design elements like that is what I would be talking about.
Mm-hmm. So we have a picture of your sloper to share with everyone. And you also teach a pattern making class about sloper fitting, right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
We do. My class, so I know a lot of pattern making classes. They generally start with, so this is my basic bodice and skirt sloper. And I actually don't start with the drafting of the sloper from scratch, because I feel like if you're new to pattern making, that can be an intimidating place to start. And it's, you know, dealing with a lot of numbers and a lot of math, and not everyone takes easily to that. So what we do in my class is I give you those slopers, or they're available for purchase. And you don't have to be in the class to get your sloper sets. And my sloper sets come with the basic bodice, the basic skirt, a basic sleeve, and a basic pant for women. And then we have, for the men, they have the bodice, the pant, and the sleeve. So you can buy a sloper set, and mine are graded. You get 5 sizes in each sloper set. So you can grade between sizes and have something to start with. And then we dive right into fitting and getting that fit to you. But actually, before that, we talk about how to manipulate. You start learning how to start adding those design elements, because by the methods that you learn to add the design elements, that actually really helps with explaining how to fit it to your body. So in my course, Pattern Making 101, that you start when you join either my community or my membership, you would start with that and learn these 3 foundational principles that I always talk about. And you learn how to do those foundational principles, and then you go to your sloper, and it helps you to understand how to get that perfect fit for yourself. And then you kind of know some fun tricks on how to change up once you have that perfect fit, how to get some fun different designs. And then it kind of, we take it from there. But we actually have, so the Pattern Place is my private community. We only open the doors to that community a couple of times a year. So that one's kind of special because it is more of a community. We do live events. We're doing lots of fitting, you know, so it's a very intimate group. And we actually will be opening the doors this October. And a lead up celebration to give you a little taste of that will be our sloper fitting boot camp. So if you are interested in learning and kind of tasting a little bit about how fitting a sloper would go, that's what we're going to be focusing on in that 5-day challenge. And then if you'd like to join our community and learn even more and dive more into it, that's what's coming up in October. And to learn the first principles, there's only 3, But to learn the first principle, we actually offer that in my free pattern masterclass, which you can do right now. And learn about that, and then that is in the below this video as well, so you can check it out and kind of learn more about my method there. And then if you're eager and don't want to wait till October, Pattern Making Academy covers that, that Pattern Making 101, and then we dive into making designs with your sloper, but we also do some sloper fitting there as well. So.
Yeah. Great. It's super exciting. Lots of moving parts, lots of options. Yeah.
Lots of options.
All right. So let's see. I do see some things in the chat. Somebody's asking, how do you get a pattern to lay flat when omitting the darts? Would you want to omit the darts?
Yeah. Darts, well, if you omitted the darts, you could get it to lay flat. Because what a dart does is allows the body, because we're 3D figures. So the only way you can get a pattern to lay flat is if you open that dart. I don't know if that's answering the question. Did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, really darts are there to give us a better fit, especially with woven garments, because with knit garments, we can stretch over the areas like the bust or the shoulder tip, things like that. It's stretching over the curved areas versus wovens often don't have as much stretch as knits, though wovens can have stretch. And we really need those darts to get a better fit. Unless it's a really loose fitting style, then we can get away with omitting some of those darts.
And by saying omitting those darts, they're actually still there. We just don't sew them closed. So that picture of the basic bodice where you have 2 darts, if you didn't sew that bottom waist dart, it would be loose fitting in the waist. The dart's still there, but it's open. It's not sewn, so that it would lay flat in that area if you were to lay it flat. But it can be used to add more ease, to make it more.
To make it looser fitting, yeah.
Make it a looser fit, yeah. To not have it be as fitted. But if you want things to be fitted, then you have to use darts. Darts are everything. You will hear that from me. The mighty dart. It's everything when you're looking at fitting. For me, it's kind of how I explain, like, am I wanting to add space or take away space in the form of a dart, in a way? And then when you go into designing and knowing how darts work, how you can move them around and do that can give you the power to make different designs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what you would use the sloper for, is to create those style patterns with the designs and other details about designs. Back to that question about different design elements on a flat pattern. That could also be pleats or shirring, gathering. It could be princess seams. It could be other design lines. And we really utilize those design elements to get that perfect fit. And a lot of people don't realize that those design elements are actually there to help us improve the fit. And we can turn those darts into shirring or pleats or move them around, like you said, manipulating that pattern, getting similar shapes, but in different design details. So you would see that on the pattern as far as shirring or pleats go. Pockets would also be other design details. Yeah, anything like that. Cuffs and two-part sleeves. That's also to get a better fit in the sleeve and the ergonomics. So we really utilize those darts as much as we can to improve
darts are everything. Those of you who know me, it's one of my, I love the dart. It's the almighty, that's the power. That's where everything comes from. And that's why it's really important and helpful to have a sloper or to have a moulage that has been fit to your body, because you know your body where your darts work on you. And then by learning later how to how you can utilize those darts to create those different design elements to know that it's still going to fit you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why we start there. That's why, we talk about starting with the sloper, and that's why it's such an important thing, because once you have that to start, that template to start, it fits, and it's just learning how to take those darts and turn them into different design elements that you would like.
Absolutely. And in the Pattern Making 101 course, do you cover that dart manipulation and turning slopers into style patterns?
Yes. So that's kind of, I always say we skip that hard math drafting part.
The part that I love.
And I love it too. It's just, if that's something that scared you, or you've done it and you didn't know where to go from there, I kind of give you that piece. But yeah, we start by learning. There's 3 foundational principles. So the first one is dart manipulation, because that's the key to everything, in my opinion. And then we go into adding fullness beyond what your dart gives you. So I was saying earlier that you don't have to sew that dart into your waist, and you can make it a looser fit. But what if you want more than that? So how to add more fullness, more gathers, more like a poof sleeve would be adding more fullness in the sleeve. And then the third principle is contouring, which is kind of then going back into the moulage world a little bit, taking out more darts to make it more fitted to the body. But all of that starting with a sloper to begin with. So we do learn about how to use those darts mostly in Pattern Making 101, like that power of the dart, and then go into how that knowledge of those darts can also help with fitting.
Yeah, and that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone else is asking, what did I fill the moulage dress form with? So let's flip back to it. Let's go here. Actually, I have it right here. So she is,
it's so nice.
I did a backing with a very kind of stiff crinoline, and that's used in corset making or in strapless dresses. And I fused that to this layer, and I also fused a batting layer to it. And I did the batting mainly so that she wouldn't be as lumpy. But then after that, I stuffed her with polyfill, just normal polyfill. She does have a skeleton down the inside to give it more structure and to hold in kind of the shaping of the waist here. So,
and did you build the skeleton?
Yeah, so I built the skeleton just with fabric and boning, basically, like wires. You can also use boning, but it's just it kind of holds the shape of the back and the actual spine, and then it gives you the shape for the stomach and for the front area. And that you also have to draft that. So that's an additional step of drafting.
Do you cover that in your course?
Yeah, so that's one of the free bonuses in the course. Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So let's see, we had a couple more questions in the chat here. Let's see.
Yeah. Ilova, I believe is how you say your name. Are seam allowances included in the sloper basic block? I always get confused with this. I'll say my opinion, and then we can see what Gina thinks. In my opinion, a sloper has no seam allowances, because the point of your sloper is to take that in the first step. I always say, if you're creating a new pattern, is to trace your sloper onto a fresh piece of paper, so that then you can cut and change it however you want, and your sloper stays as it is. It's usually on a cardstock. So I don't put seam allowances on my slopers or my basic blocks. And that would be the same for if it was a basic bodice, or if it was a basic sleeve, or if it's a basic pair of pants. I would want to start with something without seam allowances. And the reason for that is because if you're going to take that sloper and then start moving darts around and changing the design, that seam allowance could skew your design and the fit. And so it's just easier to not have it there. And then once you've completed your design, your style that you're wanting to create, then you go in and add your seam allowance.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd never put seam allowances on the slopers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But working backwards is another thing that I say, there is the drafting, and some people really love drafting. I really love drafting. I just offer this for in case, because it's also, I've seen it scare people or hold people back from jumping in. But you can take, if you have a shirt pattern that you love, or you have a pair of pant pattern that you love, you can take that pattern and remove seam allowances, remove the pockets, don't worry about all of that, and make that your sloper as well. It doesn't have to, there's a couple of different ways that you can get a sloper, and drafting is one of them, and that's one that I like to encourage, so that you don't have to start at square nothing. You can use something that was already for you.
Absolutely. You can easily take a pattern that you love and make it a sloper. Just take off the design details, simplify it as much as you can, and go from there. And this is actually what I recommend for a lot of people who get stuck in the fitting process of the sloper, to just go and make a style pattern and try it in different fabric, and then come back to the sloper after you've made a style pattern. Because for people who are really perfectionists, they want to get it right, perfect. And that can actually hold them back from proceeding and going further. And it's actually a method that we do a lot in the garment industry when we haven't defined a new silhouette yet. So we often do lots and lots of research on which silhouette we want to go with. And then we don't really have it finalized, but we have to move forward because we have the calendar dates. And so we'll make a base pattern and we make a style pattern from that base, but we've never fit that base pattern. And so we have to kind of make the style pattern, make the first proto, make the second proto. Then once it's approved for production, we come back and we fix that sloper or base pattern, whatever you want to call it. And then it's set and it's ready for the next season. So you can always start somewhere and then make a style pattern and then come back to it and kind of tweak it as you go, and don't get stuck, because people will just keep going and going, especially if you're a perfectionist like me, which I am. I can't say anything because I have the issue.
It's so easy, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's a great point. We want you to have fun. I think Gina agrees with me on this. Like, we want you to enjoy this process, and it can be really frustrating if you spend forever perfecting your sloper, your moulage, and don't get into the fun part, because ultimately you want to make designs that make you happy and that you love wearing. It's really easy to hyper focus on getting it to be just perfect. And I also try to encourage people who I see kind of getting into that rut, just make something, just make something to see your progress, to that little confidence boost. And another thing on that point is, we're human and our bodies change. So it is super, super helpful to have that sloper to go back to start. And some things will change and grow and shrink, but a lot will stay the same. So you do want to periodically go back to that and make adjustments. So it's not hard set in stone that this is forever what it's going to be. So that's something to think about too. A lot of times, I have my sloper, I'll make my design. And that's why I always encourage, when you make a new design, to make a mock-up, test it out. And even after that mock-up, baste it together. And it's okay if you still have to make little adjustments here and there. It's still going to get you a lot closer than starting with something that isn't even like close to your body. So those are a couple of points I wanted to mention.
Yeah, which brings us up to another term, right? You just said a mock-up. So
A
mock-up could
mock-up.
also be called a muslin or a toile, different things like that. Everybody uses a different term there. Great answer. So somebody is asking, where can I find information on how to adjust for a full tummy on a standard blouse pattern? So my first recommendation for that would be to eliminate any front darts in a style. And if you don't have any front darts, then the next thing would be to open up the side seams. The next option would be to actually slash open the front of the pattern and spread it. So let me go back to that. I can't actually draw on these images, unfortunately. But if you imagine slashing up that side dart on that sloper image and going all the way up to the shoulder seam and spreading, and that's going to give you fullness at that front tummy area. So those are my recommendations. And
my recommendation would be to get Gina's book, where it talks about how to make adjustments like what she was just talking about, in really clear steps, with diagrams and options if you're seeing this or that. It's a really great resource.
Thank you. All right, where else do we have? Oh, somebody's recommending your class. That's wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
Including the contour darts. That's really great. Sounds super interesting.
And then Sharon was asking about your Moulage class, when it was going to be held again.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that it will be open for enrollment in September. I've had a new website in the back end developed this last year, and I'm still dealing with a few back end things on the website. And as long as it all works out well, it will be in September here. And that free mini course series is also in September, right before the enrollment opens. So I definitely recommend joining for that, because we're going to be talking about the same topic, but we're going to take it even further from this. Yeah. So some of it might be a little bit of repeat now that you've joined here, or but you'll still learn a lot with that free mini course.
Absolutely. And I've taken her free class, and it's great. It's really good, because isn't that where in your free class you talk about measuring yourself, and those are kind of some of the tips, which I know comes up a lot for a lot of people trying to make their own clothes. You don't always have a buddy. So there's lots of great gems in there.
Thanks.
And Sandra's asking, or saying that you always have that dart in your armhole that you'd like to get rid of, the gapping in the armhole. It's funny you bring that up, Sandra, because I just did a reel about this. I do over on Instagram. I try to do it every week. Sometimes if life is busy or I'm doing a big event coming up, I won't do it. But I have this series called Tricky Thursday. They're posted on my Instagram and on my TikTok, and I address the top 3 fitting adjustments that I see that a lot of people get on their bodices, and that's definitely one of them. It's very, very common. So how I usually suggest is that you pinch out that excess and pinch it out like a dart towards your other dart that is already there. And you pinch out, you want a little bit of ease, especially if you're going to add sleeves. So you want to keep like a 1/4 inch of ease in that area, but you can pinch the rest of that out towards the bust point or towards the dart point, so that you can then move that using basic dart manipulation, which is the first thing you learn in my course, to rotate that dart into the other dart. So it's now no longer, that extra fullness is not in your armhole. It will be in the waist dart instead, which will be sewn and cupped under your bust. And I have a second. So the video, I think I just posted it last week, talks about how to pin out that alteration. And then last week it was a 2-part video, Tricky Thursday, because it was too much information to fit in one, but it talks about how to take that dart from the mock-up and do that alteration, and talking about swinging that dart into the waist. So It's very common, Sandra. You're not alone in that.
Great. All right. So,
and Tina chimed in and said the contour dart is what you would use. It's all about the darts, you guys. You'll hear me say that a lot.
Oh, great. It's so nice to see everyone's comments. Really nice. Oh.
And I just one more thing on that, because I just saw Sandra's, that you don't want the sewn dart. Absolutely. I understand that. You just want to pin it as a dart and rotating it into the other dart, which is dart manipulation. It's the first thing you learn. Also, if you want more information on dart manipulation, that is what we talk about in my free class, the free pattern masterclass, that the link is there. But you just pin it there, and then you're going to swing that dart, so you won't end up with a dart in your armhole. It will end up joining or coming part of the dart that is already there somewhere else.
Yep, exactly. Really great. Great. Okay. So someone else is asking, how do you adjust a pattern for much extra fabric up from the bust area around the neck on the front as well as on the back neck? So that would be front neck gaping or back neck gaping. This generally occurs, I found, in patterns when the front neck width is not matching the back neck width pattern. And a lot of pattern makers actually forget to add the width of the placket or the width of the zipper on the center front, which can cause gaping there. So in their actual measurements, they forget to add this. And when that adds in there, then it's standing farther away from the body. When you have back neck gaping, it generally occurs because either you don't have a dart back there, or it's not shifted into a yoke or design lines or things like that. And that generally occurs because of the shoulder blade in the back. So, but generally I start with the neck widths first, and I compare those neck widths to the body neck width of the front and the back. And that's actually also explained in the fitting book too. So
I'm telling you guys, it's a great book. There's a lot of common problems that you would see.
Mm-hmm.
And how
so someone's asking, for the flat pattern method, did you study under Norman Holden's method? I don't know who that is, actually.
I don't know who that is either. I generally, when I learned, gathering my thoughts. When I learned that from Helen Joseph Armstrong. Pattern Making for Fashion is a book that I call it my Bible. I have it here. I can pull it out for you. So that's the method that I learned, and that's kind of how I teach, of course, with my own little tweaks that I've found work for me, work best for me. And so that I'm not aware of Normal Holden's method, but now I'm curious. I want to.
Yeah. Me too. Ever since I published the fitting book, I've bought so many more books because I'm like, oh, I want to learn more. And I had never actually owned a fitting book before I published this book. So
really, well, but that's good, because then it's your own.
Yeah, it's my own. But right before I published it, I was like, oh, maybe I should double check and see, make sure it's different enough. I don't know. But the books just weren't available to me when I was learning to sew. And I remember going to the library back in the 90s, and things were not available. And if they were really old, like from the 70s. And it just didn't really speak to me so much. So, but I've branched out so much more, and I have so many books now that I want to dig into. And
yes, I'm the same way. I just bought one on stretch pattern making, fitting. That I just love to see different ways that things are explained, and then you form your own thing that works for you. You know, and then for me, it also helps me to see a lot of different ways that people explain it, so that I can come up with my own interpretation of how I want to explain it to others. So it all helps. And so Harlan did mention that with Gina's book, she has little QR codes to mini YouTube tutorials on
Mhm.
a lot of her adjustments too. So
Yeah.
a lot of great resources in there.
Yeah. So somebody else is saying Norma Holen is an older flat pattern making book. Okay.
Mm.
So I learned from a professor at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And I actually did the fashion design program, and I didn't even know pattern making existed when I applied. It was like the internet was just starting, and that information just wasn't there for me. And so I got to school, and it was really hard to get into the fashion design program too, because you had to have a portfolio. And then I got there and I realized, oh, there's pattern making. Like I took my first pattern making course, my first draping course, and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And of course, I was already in the fashion design program and learning from those teachers. So I stuck with that and just did the pattern making and draping through that curriculum. And they had two books, one about basic pattern drafting and one about dart manipulation and pattern manipulation. And they were done by professors from FIT. And I can put those in the description below in YouTube in case anyone's interested in those. But I have to say, we hardly ever actually opened up the books. My teachers really taught us their own kind of processes, and I know a lot of it was based on the books, but so much of it was hands-on, like in the course and in the lessons. So,
and that's something I want to mention too, is when you're fitting, it becomes intuitive as to what you're looking at, where the adjustment needs to be made. I know, Gina, you focus on looking at the wrinkles and what that tells you. And I'm always telling people, look for darts. You know, we all have our ways of explaining what you're looking for, but ultimately, I always say the best way to get better at fitting is to do it and to be around it. And that's what we do in the pattern place. We have a quarterly fitting. Actually, it's tomorrow. We have a quarterly fitting masterclass every quarter where we come together as a group and we fit our individual projects, because I feel like that's so beneficial for you to just be exposed to different fitting things that come up for different people and different body types, and what you're looking for and what you see and what I'm seeing, to share that with you. And that's really the best way to learn, is to just do it, dive in, do it, be exposed to it.
Yeah, and taking it step by step. And I really do think that you can learn a lot from a community too. I think there's a lot to be learned from other people's fitting issues, and those same fitting issues are coming up over and over again in slightly different ways on many different body shapes. But you can learn so much just by watching other people's fitting issues and learning from those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Sue is saying, rather than drafting on my own patterns from scratch, I want to be able to fit my body and many commercial patterns, tissue and PDF, that I already have. Is this what I would learn? Sue, yes, this is definitely, as far as my program in the pattern place more so. I would say Pattern Making Academy, we focus on the fit and learning the principles. And then the cool thing about Pattern Making Academy is Mimi G and Norris come up with designs. So every month you learn a new design, taking your sloper and learning how to take that sloper and adjust it to make a new design using those principles for that. In the pattern place, it's kind of a choose your own adventure, where we learn about the principles and how to do the fitting, and we focus a lot on fitting. But we also have a special project that I encourage people to pick something that they want to make, and you can use your sloper to start with that, or you can pick a commercial pattern and start with that. And then we use those foundations that we've learned on how to make that fit or make it the design that you want by making adjustments with what we've learned. So
Okay.
Definitely touch on that in my program. And
Mhm.
the best way, if you're interested, like I mentioned before, that will be opening. We'll be opening the doors in October, and we'll have that boot camp available. The best way to know what's going on, when that's going to happen, and there's actually extra bonuses and discounts, is to get on the wait list, which if you sign up for the free class, you'll get prompted with the link to sign up for the wait list for the pattern place if you're interested in that. It's also in the link in my bio on Instagram and TikTok if you follow me over there, which if you're not already, you can find me at Creative Costume Academy. That's my handle for all socials.
Mhm. Okay, great. And I would say, as far as my course goes, in my course, I teach you how to draft a moulage. So it's much more about pattern drafting. And then we go through the fitting process together. You sew up the sample, we do the fitting. And then from that moulage, we create a sloper based on that moulage. So I actually do have one more picture to share with you. This is from a student's moulage. So you can see her moulage is over here on the left. And then from that moulage, we add garment ease. And garment ease is enough enough extra in order for the body to move comfortably. So she has then created a sloper from her moulage, and then she made a style pattern. This is a princess seamed style pattern that she made from her sloper that she made originally from her moulage. So we don't cover the style pattern in the course, but we cover the moulage and the sloper making from the moulage in the course that I teach. And the course that I'm actually working on right now is really dialing in garment ease and understanding ease in another way. And that will really dive into fitting with commercial patterns and actually applying everything that's in the fitting book before you even sew up a sample. So it's based on a lot of measurements still, and doing a lot of pattern corrections to commercial patterns before you sew up the sample.
And that's coming up.
That's coming up. I've been working on that for almost a year now, and it's a lot of work. But I'm so excited. It's coming together so well.
Sounds like a really great class.
Yeah, and especially, yeah, it's got fitting charts. It teaches you how to fit in the right order, and then pattern correction flowchart teaching you which way to go based on your fitting issue, and kind of walks you through step by step what to do to that commercial pattern before you sew it in a fitting sample.
And Sylvia is asking, will your moulage class be a one-time class, or can you watch and learn at your own pace because she works full-time? Or would she take time off?
So it's at your own pace, and once you own it, you can do it at any time. You don't have to do it at our same exact pace, and you can take it at your own leisure. And I'm there to help you. I don't put a limit on my time for helping either. So as far as you have 1 year to complete it or anything like that, I do try to help as much as I can with the students who have taken the course.
And do you offer that support? Is it email, or is there a Facebook group, or
There's a private Facebook group that everyone can join, or if you don't have Facebook, you can also email me. Yeah.
People are loving your QR codes in the book.
Oh, and I see someone else did pattern making at FIT 2004. Oh, nice. Oh. They stopped that degree program, as far as I heard. I think they don't have it anymore. It's now technical design. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I took a certificate program for costuming, actually, because that was what I wanted to go into, which was a combination of theater and fashion classes, which is where I discovered I loved pattern making. And even though I still wanted to go into costumes, my professor at the time recommended me to go to, in LA, which is where I'm originally from, it's FITM, Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. But they also have LA Trade Tech, which is a trade school. And a lot of the teachers who teach at FITM also taught at LA Trade Tech. So I went to LA Trade Tech because it's what I could afford. And that's where I kind of dove even more into pattern making. I thought it was a great program.
Great. Awesome. All right. Are there any other questions that we have? Anything that we've missed?
I'm trying to, kind of look at everything. Pattern degree.
2005 was the last year they offered the pattern making degree. Wow. Okay. I see my mom chiming in. Gina fitted garments for gold and silver medalists for different countries for that was the games. Yeah.
LA Trade Tech. Nice, LaQuinn.
Oh, somebody's gone there. Awesome.
I actually, speaking of Helen Joseph Armstrong, the book that I love, I learned and got the book when I was at the first school I went to. And then when I got to LA Trade Tech, she was teaching. So I actually got to take a class from her, and it was just cool. And that class, I've actually tried to, we've done it a couple of times in the pattern place, but that class was my favorite because we would walk in and she would have a design on the dress form, on the half scale dress form, and we would have to figure out what the pattern was to create that design. And we go and try to make the pattern and sew a mock-up, which we should go back to because I don't think we talked a lot about what mock-ups are. And we would sew a little half scale mock-up. And so you would kind of learn at that stage whether it turned out right or not. And then the next class, she would show us how to create that design. And I just love the way that made my brain work. So there are some people who've, I've always encouraged we call them my sew stars at the pattern place. I've always encouraged my sew stars, if they're curious about how to create a pattern, I say, well, what do you think? And you try it. And then when we have our live Q&A sessions, I would show them how I did it, and then we kind of compare notes and talk about it. It's a fun pattern game if you're a pattern nerd like I am. It's a fun little game. But I learned that from Helen Joseph Armstrong. It was my favorite class.
Oh, that's great. That's really interesting. Yeah. All right. So
before we talk about a sloper, I think Sue had asked this earlier and I'd kind of forgotten. Can we add the names of our favorite fitting books to the description? I know I've also done a couple of reels on Instagram of some of my favorite books that I like to have around as well.
Okay. Yeah, we can add some books in there. Of course, my favorite fitting book, you know what it is.
And I'm going to say mine's up there too.
But yeah, there are many other fitting books and many pattern making books too. There's so many resources out there. And I think that's the great thing about right now with the online world. There are so many opportunities. And you know, when you take one of our classes, we want you to keep going with different methods and trying different things, and until it clicks for you or until you're continually learning, this is what's going to really step you up to the next level. The more classes you take, the more you learn from books or from the online world, anything like that. Because, you know, just like you and I, Trisha, we had to take lots of classes to get to the point that we could even work in the industry. And then you get all of that industry experience. So it takes a while, but it will click for you if it hasn't already. And maybe a different method is better for you too. So even if it has clicked, maybe you can try something new and keep growing in that journey.
Absolutely. That's a great point. There's a couple of questions. And one of them, I see your question, Sherry, and I will answer that. But I want to go to Bonnie's question because she's asking about a muslin or a mock-up or a toile. And she's saying, I made a muslin. I can tell their circumference is wrong for my body. Should I make a few garments from patterns that probably won't fit me just to learn to sew first? I do recommend that you know at least the basics of sewing, like what a pattern is. You've seen a grain line, because one thing when you're making your own patterns is it doesn't come with instructions. So there is a little bit of knowledge that helps with that, but it is a completely different skill, pattern making and sewing, although they do obviously go hand in hand and together. I love mock-ups and muslins, and you'll hear me talk about that a lot. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do a mock-up if you are testing a new design. We work with a lot of half scale to learn the principles and the functionality of how these things work. And when I am asked to do some crazy costume, which I'm often asked to do, I will do a little half scale test version, and then I will go to a full scale mock-up. And the benefit of doing a mock-up, it's a test run, right? To test if you've gotten the fit right, if the design looks the way you envisioned it to look. I generally add extra seam allowance in certain areas that I would probably want to make an adjustment. So at the side seams, in the shoulder seams, in the center back seam or center front seam. And I based my mock-up together so that if something isn't fitting right, I can open up that seam easily and pin it, use that extra seam allowance as extra fabric to at a lesser or tighter seam, and then use all that. So that's kind of I call it the CCA system of my 5-step process of picking a design, doing a mock-up, fitting, and then going to the final thing. But that's what I would recommend, Bonnie, that maybe adding some extra seam allowance to a pattern and doing a mock-up, and trying to correct your fit on the mock-up and making those adjustments so that you're going to be happy with what you've sewn in the end.
And when you say a mock-up, it's the same thing as a muslin or a toile, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And another thing, Bonnie, that you could do is if it's just the main circumference measurements, you can also measure different garments in your wardrobe, in your collection, and make sure that if it's a woven, you're measuring a woven, or if it's a knit, you're measuring a knit garment. That's actually coming up in the course I'm writing right now. We measure the garments, and then we determine what kind of garment wearing ease we like, and then you base a size on that garment wearing ease. And that could help you to make sure that you're getting the right circumference measurements on those main ones. And yeah, that would be a starting point too.
And a lot of patterns, not all patterns, but a lot of patterns now have started putting on, in addition to body measurements, they'll put finished garment measurements. Mm-hmm. So in that example that Gina was just talking about, where you're going to measure clothes that you already love, that would be your finished garment measurement that you could maybe use to compare to some of those patterns that might help also.
Yep, exactly. All right.
And then one question that I saw, Sherry was asking about support online at the Pattern Place. Absolutely. It's focused completely on community and the other Sew Stars and coming together. We have 2 live events monthly. And then outside of that, we have a private Facebook group, and I'm always in there, but not only me, the other Sew Stars are always in there and supporting each other, where we're big on just accountability and support and encouragement, and being surrounded by people who are also doing these weird pattern things and understanding, where we're at with that. So that is definitely a big focus at the Pattern Place, is the support.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I know we've kind of gone over an hour. We can talk all day about this stuff.
Oh, okay. Kathy, yes, this is going to be available later on to view. It will be on both of our YouTube channels, so you can view it again or whatever you missed. And someone's asking about a half scale mannequin, or can you do a fitting check be done without that? Oh, she's so cute.
a little naked right now. I'm just noticing. Yeah, Miss Susie. That's Miss Susie. She's not shy, so it's okay. Typically, for fitting, I don't recommend. I mean, the purpose of the half scale is not for fitting. It's for learning about fitting, but it's more so learning about how to make the style, turn a sloper into a what do we call it? A working pattern, a style pattern. Turning a sloper or a block into a style pattern. So those 3 principles that I was talking about that we learn, we usually work through those examples in our half scale, just because it uses less materials, and it's easier to learn with using less space and less materials. And then everything that you do, the cool thing about the principles, whatever I do, if I move a dart on Susie's size and then I go to my size sloper and want to do the exact same thing, it works the same way. So it's just it's a teaching tool, more so. And when I was talking about if they asked me to make a crazy costume and I would do it in half scale first, it's more of a way for me to test the proportions of the design. So it's more on the design side than I would say the fitting side of learning pattern making, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have. We'll kind of wrap this up after these questions here. How do you take out the pointiness of a bust dart? Do you have an answer for that one, or you want me to go?
I typically, you want to on your sloper, and depends on the slope that you have, but on your slopers that I generally give and talk about, your dart goes all the way to the bust point. But when you make a style pattern or complete your pattern, to cut it out of fabric and sew it together, you add your seam allowance and you back off your dart. So you don't have your dart go all the way to the bust point. You back that off, and that amount can vary depending on your bust size and what works for you. So that will definitely help by backing that dart off a little bit. And then in the sewing, I like to not just come to a straight abrupt point. I'll run a couple of stitches along the edge of my dart, to kind of round that, and that helps as well. And then pressing, of course.
Yeah. And I don't back tack darts either. Always tie a hand knot at the end, then for sure it won't be quite as pointy. If it's really becoming pointy still, it basically means that the dart intake and the depth of the dart is just too deep for how long the dart is. So the best way to do it, if it is because of the dart intake being too deep, is to split it into 2 darts. So you would have a dart at the waist and a dart at the side. Or you can move those darts into French darts or anything, and really play around with those darts and have fun with it. And or
say it again, all about the dart.
Yeah. So, I mean, really in those style patterns, we should not have too pointy of darts, but we can always move them into design lines and design features to get rid of those points.
Absolutely.
Great. So let's see. Yeah, so the Moulage course, the sign up is going to be in September, hopefully, as long as everything goes well with the website. I will let you know. So if you signed up and you got that, sign up for the wait list, you'll get an email in your inbox letting you know when it's open. And look, Quinn, thank you. Super sweet. Okay. All right. Oh, really nice. Thank you so much for sharing the book, Linda. Really great feedback. Do we have any other last questions? So today we've learned a moulage, right? That's a mold in French. It's a body double. You can use that to create a bra, corset, strapless dress, or really, really tight fitting clothes. Then or a dress form. Yeah. And then we have a sloper, which has the added wearing ease, and that allows for the body to move. So it's the minimum amount of wearing ease that we have to add in order to move comfortably. And from that sloper pattern, we can create a style pattern with it. And the style pattern has everything from any design detail that you can imagine. And that's where all the fun also is too.
The fun designing.
Yeah.
The
Right.
fun designing part. Yeah.
Yeah. So really great. Well, thank you so much, Trisha. Thanks for contacting me about this topic.
Yes.
It's been so much fun.
It was a lot of fun, and it was really great to go live and to share with you. Thank you all for joining us live. And if you're watching this replay, where I know Gina's going to post it, and I think I have a new channel. It's brand new. But I think I'm going to try to post it on my channel as well, so that if you're coming in late or you are watching this later, thank you for hanging out with us and joining in on this conversation. We hope that you've learned some things and are excited about trying some different stuff and excited about pattern making.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been so much fun to talk to you all and to see so many familiar names, and I've really enjoyed it. And the community makes it so special. It's
really does.
an amazing community. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.
And I want to say just one last thing. If we did mention it a couple of times. We have our links to my free class, and your link is to
the free mini course. Yeah.
The free mini course as well. So if you're curious about our methods, jump on those free courses, and you can find me over on Instagram, is where I usually hang out, at creative.costume.academy. It's a little happy face. And I share over there. You can jump onto the wait list for the pattern place if you're interested in that, in my bios. And then also PMA is always available, Pattern Making Academy. So if you're just eager and want to get into it, you can check that out as well and cancel anytime. And where can they find you, Gina?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and on YouTube at Gina Renee Designs, and my website is ginareneedesigns.com, and you can click the link in the description to sign up for that free mini course series. I'm hoping to launch the next course in January. I was really hoping to get it done for the autumn, but it's just turned into so much more work than I anticipated. And we're talking about negative ease in that course. We're talking about garment ease. So it's really two really big topics that we're covering. And the course just has gotten much more in depth than I anticipated. So it's getting closer, but
with everything else you've created, I know it's going to be wonderful. So
thank you. That's really sweet of you.
Get connected with Gina and follow all the amazing things she's doing. Get that wedding book.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.